Liberal leaders patting themselves on the back because a murder was targeted and not random. Unfortunately, that's the sad state of San Francisco. The man suspected of stabbing to death tech mogul Bob Lee, charged with murder today. And police say Lee knew his killer. San Francisco's Democrat Mayor London Breed practically gloating over that. She's trying to score some political points and hit back at critics who've been blasting her city as unsafe.
I think that oftentimes because of social media, because of cameras and how people are able to publicize things that are happening in a moment, it is taken completely out of context in terms of highlighting the entire city as being unsafe. That's not entirely true. It's sad because I think it's just San Francisco has been a target for so long and used as an example because we're innovative, we're creative, we come up with out-of-the-box ideas and a number of other things to push forward change in our communities. And I think that sadly, you know, with the previous president, it was a target.
People are getting fed up with the nonsense, too. Lawrence Jones actually went to San Francisco to talk to Democrats about far-left measures that put criminals back on the streets. And the voters there say they got tricked. Listen.
Who thought it was a good idea? Is anybody in supportive of it?
Apparently the voters did.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, because it was sold as the Safe Schools Act. Come on, who doesn't want to vote for a Safe Schools Act?
If you've never voted in the state of California, you have to understand that we get these books that are this thick. We all thought it was a certain thing, but it was sold as the Safe Schools Initiative. And we're like, who doesn't want safe schools?
And even Al Sharpton's warning Democrats that crime could be the party's downfall.
Anybody that tells you they progressive but don't care about dealing with violent crime are not progressive for who? Yeah. We got to stop using progressive as a noun and use it as an adjective. Your label's progressive, but your action is regressive. I'm woke. You must think I'm asleep.
It's gotten so bad even Pirro and Sharpton agree on something.
I do agree with him. He's absolutely right. But think about it. Think about it. What London Breed is saying about San Francisco, which is, I mean, we've been talking about it for months here. It's about the social media, and it's about the cameras, and it's about the perception of crime. It's not really about crime. Because if you take the murder of Bobby Lee, it's really not about San Francisco because he was targeted by somebody. And therefore, it's not like street crime. So I guess the Pelosi case shouldn't be counted as a crime in San Francisco because it was targeted against Nancy and her husband in their house. So, I mean, how they get to these mental gymnastics is more than I can understand. But if they're saying that only street crime is the kind of crime that can be linked to their city, she has more than enough of it. And the reason she has more than enough of it is because she cut the PD $120 million when she was in favor of defund the police. Now, I'm starting to think it's not about, a war of policies. It's really about a war of words. And that was the last thing that was going on with Lawrence Jones. You know, how could you be against something that is for safe schools or safe this or that? They pretty much sabotage. They take the language. It becomes a war of words. Who controls the words? Who controls the narrative? And so they say, that they're winning and the rest of us are fools and we don't really understand what's going on because they're for safe cities, even though their cities and their policies are criminal.
Martha, do you buy the excuse that we were tricked? We didn't know what we were voting for?
Well, I think that there's a long history of creative naming of bills and referendums that make people feel bad if they don't vote for them. And I think he's right. A lot of people don't read some of the fine print that goes along with a lot of these bills. But I'm struck by the fact that Mayor London Breed says that they think outside the box and that they're creative. I mean, tell that to these businesses that have needles outside their businesses, people sleeping in their doorways. I have, people talk to people in San Francisco who always vote liberal, and they are up to here. They've had it. So you can have a war of words, which I think is a very sort of skillful attempt, but eventually it doesn't work anymore because people get it. They know their life experience. They see what's happening in front of them. And even this situation with Bob Lee, he was stabbed. There's all kinds of new details coming out in the documents around this, that it was something about his sister and that he wanted to know if anything inappropriate had happened with his sister and the text messages back and forth. He was stabbed He went from car to car trying to get someone to help him. What is that reflective of? It's reflective of a city where everybody's scared, right? They don't want to help. Oh my God, there's somebody bleeding. Next thing I know, there's going to be a gun coming out and someone's going to get shot. If I stop to help, what's going to happen to me? That's a mentality that is existing in the city. So it is not separate from what plagues the population in San Francisco about knowing that they're not safe. Ask Paul Pelosi.
It's true. Greg Gutfeld, what do you think of London Breed's comments?
Well, you know, it's kind of weird when like one person's last moments are now a political boast. You know, it's like this is probably the worst victory lap I've ever seen. I mean, the city that they act as though this somehow restores SF's golden reputation because it wasn't a random murder. How pathetic is that? And that somehow Bob Lee's death disproves all other deaths. You know, and so this is a murder that they're okay with. Never mind. It didn't. His murder didn't stand out because there was so much crime going on in the fabric of the city that when it happened after other murders and happened before murders. So it just so happens that this was done by somebody he knows. That doesn't disprove anything else. How bad is it? How bad is it for a city when this is your relief? I mean, it is disgusting. And you know you've reached peak absurdity when Al Sharpton says we got to get tough on crime. Anybody close to my age or older knows Al Sharpton wasn't pro-crime for half his life. But it's a sign that leftism has moved so far to the left that it's left Al Sharpton in a new middle. Like if Charles Manson was alive, he'd be saying, I'm moving. He'd be calling U-Haul to move out of California. But he reveals, I think Sharpton reveals an unspeakable truth that we've been saying here. Nothing hurts blacks more than white liberals, right? I mean, white libs, unlike black constituents, excuse criminal behavior. They condemn police presence. They're usually the jokers who are behind that absurd reparations number, the defunding and the clearing of prisons. Behind all of those things, you'll always find a pasty white leftist. And usually it's the black constituents that are going like, get this person out of our lives. We want cops in our neighborhoods. We just don't want bad cops. White leftists never say that. They say no cops. Blacks say good cops. That's a difference. I'm sure you would agree with me.
Yeah,
It's good to see you, by the way.
Yeah, these whites are a huge problem, aren't they?
I dare you. Say it, Harold. Whites are terrible.
My wife is watching, and so are my children. It's good to be back, too. I agree with you that people I know, blacks, whites, people who want public safety, who deem public safety judges a big part of why they vote for certain politicians, want good police officers. We want more of them. I've said on this show, more cops, ending cash bail, attacking ghost guns, perhaps building more prisons. If that's what we need to ensure we have public safety, particularly in neighborhoods that oftentimes are hit the hardest by this, Jesse, that's what we need. I watched Kevin O'Leary earlier. Was he on your show? He was on one of the shows earlier.
They all look alike.
Talking about how bad policies are forcing disinvestment in businesses to leave communities, which is another form of disinvestment. He said it's not politics, it's policy. And I think Democrat, Republican alike, and we should, you know, the mayor, all mayors want to try to make their cities sound better. I do agree with you. This is a strange victory lap. But at the same time, I understand what she's saying, but she'd spend it'd be a lot better expenditure of time if you got the council together and tried to figure out how do we prevent these things from happening going forward.
That's what she should have said during that interview.
She could have said, look, people think so poorly of the city. We are not the city you think, but we need to do better. And here's what I'm announcing. And I think, unfortunately, politicians today get so thin-skinned. We have to remember, this is a national problem. 8 out of 10 states with the highest murder rates happen to be governed by Republicans. I don't say.
Stop it, Harold. It's liberal cities.
Bring those talking points in here. Now it's not good to see you.
The governor isn't in charge of law enforcement. The mayors are.
The most important voice I saw a minute ago was something you said about Reverend Sharpton. I don't think he's been 40 years for crime, but for him to stand up and before progressives and say progressive for who?
Yeah.
If you're really serious about bringing about investment, making schools better, creating better public safety in communities that progressives purport to want to try to achieve, listen to him and listen to those of us around the table who are not talking about this politically or racially. We're talking about it from the standpoint of public safety. And if we don't do that, the policies get worse, and that means business and money and opportunity and education opportunity in particular leave the communities we need them in most.
Black kids killed at a rate 5 times the rate of white children in cities in America. And that's what she should be focused on.
But I'll tell you this, even if we're white kids being killed 5 times, I'd still want public safety. So I think that's the issue here.
Absolutely.
We all do.
Right. No, I know
we all want safety, but the fact is that we get so much attention sometimes on the school shootings, which obviously are important stories, but what we miss is all of the everyday violence that no one ever talks about or shows the pictures of these children.
I agree 100%.
I think we all agree that white liberals are the problem. Thank you.
Yes.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.